So here we are, back with a review. It's not long after Christmas, and Christmas means new kits usually for us that are in the hobby, and this is one of those. So this is very new release, sort of came out in December, and it's for the French, as it says here, 155mm C17S Howitzer, used by France, USA, Spain and Germany. This is a World War I gun that also got a run out in the Second World War and the Spanish Civil War. So it saw some service, it's fair to say. So this is by Werk. It is their product. If you're interested in that sort of thing, it looks to me as though Takom have probably produced this for them as far as making the model into plastic. But as far as I can see, if you look around the box, they've done all the work. So there we go. So as we get in, we'll start opening some bags. So first off, it's great packaging with quite a lot of Werk kits, whether they're reboxes, whatever they are. If they come in a Werk box, you tend to get a very good, nice set of instructions. And if you get a little bit of photo etch and decals. And as we get here, we've got our separately packaged book with some decals and a piece of photo etch. This is not too thick, and it is actually covered by a piece of plastic on both sides. So that's nice. We've got a very small decal sheet, as you would expect for this, just with some sort of serial markings or some sort of hand-painted markings on the front, and then we are into the instruction. So what we've got here is the usual sort of printing where it's making it look oldie-worldy, as it were. You've got the transport mode and it actually in the firing position being shown there. And we've got the US version as well here, which has a different shield by the looks of it. The US model 1918 would serve in the Pacific Theatre of Operations in the early years of the war. So that's talking about the Second World War. There you go. As we're here, let's skip to the end to see, he says, is it at the end or at the start, to see where the marking options are. Oh, look at that, at the start. That's different, isn't it? So there's your parts layout. All very straightforward there. So we've got the French version, which is a call out in grey. So you've got paint call outs, helpfully, is Tamiya, Mr. Hobby, Ammo, Vallejo, Humbrol and Mission models. And then we've got the USA version here as well. That's First World War, it's fair to say. This is the Spanish Civil War. It's all over green. And then we've got the an Africa Corps version. So the Germans must have been pretty desperate if they're rolling these out in Africa. So as we go on through, it's laid out really as far as CAD drawings, highlighting blue what the next step is and what the new bit is that you're doing in each step. Nice layout here for the photo etch bending, just to show you how that's going to be clear and telling you to anneal the part to make it easier to bend. We have got a two-piece gun barrel. But again, I mean, I've never found that too much of an issue, really. Building up part of the cradle and the gun carriage here. Going on, straightforward, a little bit more photo etch going on. Now starting to look a bit more like a field gun. As we go on through, all very straightforward stuff. Adding the gun sight. We've got two different plaques here. So if it's a Spanish one, as usual, a lot of the Spanish stuff is license built over in Spain, so that's what this is. It says Fábrica de Trubia. Is it Trubia? Yeah, which is it's one of the main centres that were producing munitions, anything basically military. And we're going on through now with the gun shield, etc, etc, and that brings us to the end. So we can have it in a firing position, or we can have it in a travel position, and that's what I'll be doing, travel position, as I've got something that pulled this. And there's a couple of the guys there, CEO with Harold Bask and Pete Hammond doing the 3D designing. There we go, very nice stuff. So we'll have a quick look at the sprues, and in no particular order, we've got Sprue E here, which is just the ammunition. So we've got boxes there which seem to be made up. Looks like we've got two boxes, two bottoms, two tops, two sides, two ends, and then we've got the actual shells there as well. So that's a nice touch to have a bit of ammunition. And we've got a nice little baggie here, which has got some of the well, it's not I suppose pre-molded finer points. of the kit, which makes up the main sort of, I think what it's called now, the sort of cradle of the gun. Really, really nicely done with those raised rivets or bolts all through there. One thing I usually find with anything sort of tack-on related is you get quite heavy seam lines, ejector pins. I mean, these aren't a problem, you can just sort of nip them off, no issue. But the seam lines would be a problem if they were going all around the edge, and they don't actually seem to be. In fact, that looks like some very fine sort of texture in there, whether it's wood grain or something left over from the mould, I can't quite tell. But anyway, it's all absolutely fine. We don't have any seam line running through where the raised rivets are, or bolts, but we do have a bit here and then it runs on there, and that's easy for clean up, so that's nice to see. And then we've got Sprue C, which is catering for some of the finer points, and that looks very nice as well. Do you know, I don't know where this has come from. This doesn't actually look very tack-on-like to me. It could well be though. And this is, I mean, the only thing is you get it on all kits now is these sort of heavy punch-out marks there, and you just nip them off, and that's fine. I mean, I'd much prefer that than having ejector pin marks on the piece, which is this is kind of the two ways of doing it. So having these bits out here means they can punch it out from there rather than punching it out from there. Perfect stuff. Some very fine detailed parts here, and again, very cleverly, there's some cogs here. And to keep that kind of cog edge uncompromised, as it were, it's been moulded like that with the sprue gates. So they're actually on the face of the edge, not on the cog part, where the teeth are. So that is fantastic. As long as you can nip that off, you know, I would nip them off sort of like that, and then like that on the part. Kind of go down, take a chunk off, is what I'm saying, and then cut that chunk off when you can get at it a bit better. I can't see any seam lines, any heavy seam lines or anything like that running around any of these parts. This all looks extremely clean. No problems with the moulding, it's all absolutely bang on. Even on the rear face, we've got raised details there, very fine numbering, which is just there. Very hard to see on the camera. We've got raised bolts and rivets all around here, and that's detail on both sides. Very impressive bit of moulding that. Now we've got the wheels coming through, and part of the travel sort of setup, the lumber. Of course, been a long time. You know, it's the gun and lumber, I think it's called. A bit of a seam line around the wheel there, and nothing. I mean, shouldn't even mention it really. You just sand around that, no problem, or scrape it. The seam lines are starting to appear now on the parts, which is what I was mentioning before. But it's not heavy at all. It's nothing unlike anything else really. I mean, you even get this on Tamiya stuff. It's all absolutely fine. What I'm loving here is there's not really any ejector pin marks on any of the parts where you wouldn't want it. I mean, even you could argue you could have them on the inside of this, which seems to be the inside lid of these boxes, but it's not there, and it's not there where the raised detail is, and that's one of my pet hates, and we don't have any of them on there. And here we are with another part. I mentioned earlier, I think it was showing that in the front of the manual that this gun was also used by the Americans in the Pacific during the Second World War, and it's got a bit of a chunkier front to it, and that's, I don't think you can make that out of this part from what I can see, but no doubt it will be another release. There we've got the two-piece gun barrel. I mean, fair enough. How else could you have done it? Bit of a difficult shape to get in one piece, isn't it? But it's very easy for cleanup. So all you're going to need to really attempt is to get a very nice join when you get the two parts together. Get a bit of a weld bead going from the plastic if you squeeze it enough, and then sand that back, and obviously just fill the line just like you would a fuselage seam. It's no different to that, so I don't see any real issue with anything going on there. Similarly here, that's going to be a tubular section, and that just needs sanding around. That's going to be the hardest bit of this model from what I can see. Again, cleanliness of the moulding all over is no problem. No ejector pin marks anywhere where it looks like it's going to be an issue. Very good stuff. And here we are finally with the last sprue that's in the box, and this is a very heavily detailed sprue. This is catering for all the raised bolts and rivets running around there. As you can see, so ejector pin marks are cropping up now, but they're in areas where you can access. So instead of being in and around here, they're on the edge, and then if that's going to be seen, which I'm not sure if it is, as we're here. So it's these big side bits. No, I think that's going to be blanked off by this a bit tight there, sorry. I think it's going to be blanked off by this bit here, because that's the top, bottom, and it's got an end to it, so this isn't exposed internally. No, there we go. Well, we don't have to worry about that then. So that's good. As I was saying, as you go across this, it does seem to be cleverly thought out in that regard. These are the wheels for the main gun. This obviously makes up the main gun and its carriage, whereas the other one was the lumber, we'll call it, for want of a better word. And again, the rear face of the gun shield, no ejector pin marks there whatsoever. Does seem to be cleverly designed in that way. It seems to be that the ejector pin marks are in places where they're not going to be a problem. And I do seem to be going on and on and on about ejector pin marks, but that's the one thing to look out for here. And it looks like this piece here is going to be mounted on the back of this gun shield. That is exquisitely done. That raised bolt head all around there. That's extremely nice. And again, instead of trying to mould it in there, it's been cleverly thought out. Let's mould it here, get it crisp, then you can glue it in there. And, well, there you are. So, I think that that brings us to a close here. What could you argue could be needed to this? Metal gun barrel, possibly, if anyone decides to make one. It wouldn't be something I'd buy, but, you know, it would be an improvement on what's in the kit. The rest of it, I think, you know, everything you need is in the box, including your piece of photo etch. The gun shield isn't overly thick, and it probably was a chunky gun shield for the time. Very impressive. So as with any kit, you know, you can't tell a lot just by looking in the box other than mould defects, some sort of engineering choices, etc. But from what I've seen there, I mean, it's not going to be a difficult build. You know, when it comes to a gun, there isn't a lot that can go wrong. I'm very impressed by this one. I got this at Salisbury Model Centre. It's $26.95, which I think is probably on the upper end of the price scale, but you know, it's within the range I think, you know, people would be willing to spend for a gun like this, with some very modern design and engineering going into the kit. Very crisp detail and a very nice looking model. I'm very pleased with it. I will be building this. This one will be coming onto the channel at some point through this year. It's going to be built up in the travelling position, very much like this, with something pulling it. And guess which one I shall be doing. Yes, no prizes for winning that guess. But nevertheless, this is going to be a nice build. Should make for an impressive model as well. When all's done, it'll be going on a little base with the odd figure, and hopefully, all being well, making it to Telford as part of a table display. So there we go. I think that's a nice one to have on the channel. Very interesting subject. Nice release. You know, amazing release, really. I mean, think of this coming out 10 years ago. Who on earth would have brought us this? But here it is, in injection moulded plastic nonetheless. Good on Dad's Werk for continuing to give us very interesting and unusual releases, or important releases, like, you know, Takom Panthers that had gone missing. You know, they got another release. Dragon Stug free as well as all of the other unusual things that they've given us, which is their own moulding. So what a great company. Let's hope they keep that going. Let me know what you think down below. If you haven't already, you know, video the like, subscribe, etc, etc. Thanks very much for continuing to support, and I will see you in the next video.